Hello, my name is Liam and welcome to Arcade Grenade. Today we're heading into the wasteland because I've printed something very cool for one of my subscribers, a fusion core from Fallout 4. Now this thing is basically the nuclear battery that keeps your power armor running, so obviously I had to make one that looks like it's been pulled out of a vault, minus the radiation poisoning, hopefully. In this video, I'll show you the print, the cleanup, the paint job, and how it all came together. So grab your pit boy, avoid the death claws, and let's go and have a look. So with any 3D print, the first thing we need to do is remove all the supports. So we just snap those out of place. And then I like to use a craft knife just to go around and take all the edges off. I know you can get a deburring tool, but you get just as good results with this. Okay, we'll just snap these off out of the way. That one comes out pretty tidy. Okay, next thing we need to remove all the stringing. So for that, we're going to use just a simple little blowtorch. Look at that, cleans it up all nice. Okay, let's assemble. Now here's a really handy trick that I use for if you need to line stuff up and it's a bit awkward to do. I know it sounds simple, but a little double glue. And then you get your cocktail skewer, and then you can get it perfectly in the. How's that look? Okay. Does that look okay? I think it looks okay. Let's set it in place. How cool is that? Literally within seconds. So cool. Okay. That's the right way. Nope. That's the right way. Always remember to put your lids back on. Okay, so now we've glued it together, but it's still going to need a little bit of colour before we can get on to weathering it. Something I've realised is whenever you try painting 3D printed stuff, obviously the way that a 3D printer works is it's made up of layers and layers and layers and layers. The paint can actually seep in and run into the model. So here's a handy little trick that I've learned. We'll go over to the spray bench and have a look. Now we've got a layer of clear coat on the model, we can now paint it without worrying about the paint running into all the layer lines of the 3D print. So let's add some detail. Okay, so we're going to try two things today. The first thing that I always like to use is the Vallejo air model paints. I think that they just go on really well and you don't always have to rely on airbrushing. But the other thing that we're also going to try are a set of acrylic markers. I've never actually used these before, so it'll be interesting to see how they do with coverage. These are the dual tip ones, so you've got the thick end on one end and then you've got the fine on the other. Let's go with the marker first. Let's give the marker a go. So the only bit that we're really going to have to paint to color correct on this model are these little tiny ports on the side. The rest of it's pretty much there. We just need to weather it and age it a bit. But let's give these a go. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. It's not great. Well, let's just sack that idea off. Let's go straight to the paint. Stick with what you know. We don't really need a lot. Just a few drops will do. Ah, there we go. That's a better coating. Look at that. That's much better. That's a much nicer coating. And a little really does go a long way with these paints as well, which is handy when we're in a cost of living crisis. Nobody wants to buy paints. Not when we can't afford to feed our children. I can already hear the comment section screaming at the fact that I'm not using masking tape. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because a whole lot of weathering is going to cover up the rough edge anyway. Oh, too much. That's where the clear coat comes in handy. So as you can see, that's looking a lot better now. Just for the other side, try not to do what I always do and put my hand in it. I don't think that looks too bad. So now we'll set that to the side, let it dry, and then we'll come back in a minute and start weathering this. Okay, now the paint is dry, we can start adding some dirt. Now the way I do this, I've got these cool little weathering dust things. I'll put an image up on the screen of the ones that I use. I got them from Hobbycraft, can't remember the exact make. But basically these tiny little pots, careful don't spill it, these tiny little pots are just full of like coloured dust. So what I tend to do with these is you really do not need a lot of this stuff because it goes everywhere. I just put a tiny bit on the paintbrush, and then I tried to think of it of, say, if this thing had been left in the dirt for a couple of 100 years, where would dirt accumulate? So what I tend to do is I will just put some in the creases and crevices. And I guess the best thing about weathering is you don't really need to be massively accurate. I mean, no one can tell you where it's going to be dirty and where it isn't. But yeah, you end up with that cool, like dirty textured look there. So we're just going to repeat that along this ridge here. What you can do as well is if you end up with too much on, you can use an old makeup brush to just try and wipe away the excess. And what's it people always say when they're doing stuff like this? Less is more. Or whatever the hell that means. How's that looking so far? I think that's looking a little bit better. We don't want it to be too bad. I mean, I suppose what else you could do is literally just go outside and just throw it in the mud. I mean, it's your 3D printed model, you do you. I might try that actually. Should I try that? I'll try that on another one. We'll do another one. I'll do another video sometime. We'll actually just go lob it in some mud and see how it turns out and compare the results. Now there's this kind of like weird seam thing here. So I guess what you could imagine is that, I don't know, like dirt and rain and mud would have been caught in there, maybe run down. Again, there's no like right or wrong way of doing this. You're just making it look dirty. We've now successfully weathered this. Well, we're not finished yet. We're going to do some dry brushing now to give it a like brushed metal look, which basically makes it look like the paint has been chipped away from the metal. Okay, now onto dry brushing. There's a few ways to do this, but this is the way I've found most effective. So what you are going to need is a bit of kitchen roll. Take your kitchen roll, you're then going to need a little pot, and then you're going to want a nice wide tipped brush. I got these off Amazon. I'm sure these are makeup brushes and they're just sold at a markup as dry brushing brushes, but anyway. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little bit of paint. We're just gonna pop a bit of paint in there. Now this is the really weirdly wasteful bit of dry brushing. What you want to do essentially is a nice bit of paint on your brush, and then you're just going to wipe it all off. So then there's barely any left on the brush whatsoever. And then anywhere where there's like a raised edge where you think paint might have chipped off, just gently brush across it like that. You don't want to dab, you just want to wipe it. And then if you see there on the red, it looks like the paint's chipped off and it gives a nice cool effect. So we've now weathered it with dust, we've dry brushed it. So the next thing we need to do is we need to add a oil wash onto the top of it. The only problem is we've put all this dust on and stuff like that, and it'll just rinse it off. So we will give it another coat of clear coat, just a very, very light one. All we're doing is just protecting the dust from the oil wash. So we'll go back over to the spray cab, give it another coat of lacquer, and then once that's dry, we'll come back, put an oil wash on it again, and then we'll seal that in with a final coat of lacquer, and then it's done. Okay, so our last layer of lacquer has dried, and we're now ready to put our final bit of weathering on, which is a wash. You can also use acrylic paints mixed with a little bit of hot water. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna add a final bit of dirt and gunk right in those creases there. I don't think that looks half bad. Once it dries, I think it'll look a lot better. It just looks grimy and dirty. I'm gonna let that dry, and I might add a little bit of darker back in. But yeah, we'll check back on that in a second when it's dried. So off camera, I went ahead and added just another little bit of an oil wash. Nothing too drastic, just to really darken up those areas where the dirt would have sat. It then went on to have a final coat of clear coat, and here is the finished product. I think this thing looks absolutely awesome. It was great fun to build and great fun to paint. What are your thoughts on it? Drop me a comment below and let me know. And there we go, one 3D printed and painted fusion core ready to power some power armor. Huge shout out to this guy who asked for this one. This was such a fun little project which perfectly ticked the boxes of 3D printing, gaming, and questionable workshop decisions. If you've enjoyed the video, hit that like button and drop a comment below with what Fallout inspired prop you'd like to see me make next. And of course, subscribe for more 3D printing, model making, retro video game repairs, and more general nerdy chaos. I've been Liam, this has been Arcade Grenade, and I'll see you in the next one. In this video, I'll show you the printing process, the cleanup process, the painting process, and the weathering process. No, that sounds crap.